Alright guys, so here is part 1, self-publishing for beginners. Before we jump into this part of the course, I just want to quickly let you know that there is a accompanying worksheet slash guide slash template, or I should rather say worksheet and guide and template bundle that accompanies this course, meaning it's just a lot of kind of helpful material for you to use in conjunction with watching this course. So what does it contain? It contains a 20-page plus a report called Best-Selling Book Marketing Checklist. It's basically something like 22-page report, which walks you through all of the elements that you gotta kind of take care of to publish books that are gonna sell very well for you. There's 2 different versions. One is for authors and one is for the entrepreneurial self-publishers. And then we also have the ghostwriter job post template. We have the cover designer job post template. Basically, once you get to the part where you're looking for either of these types of people to kind of fulfill a role in your publishing business, you can just like fill out all of your kind of specific parts, delete the missing parts, add your own parts, and just throw it on Upwork and you're good to go. Then you have the review request template that you put in the front matter and the back matter of your books. The download link is down in the description box. What you got to do is just follow all the steps and your bundle will be sent to you in a matter of minutes. All right, so before we dive specifically into the process, I just want to say a quick few words about Amazon and what is the state of self-publishing at the moment. Now, Amazon opened their doors, if I'm not mistaken, 2010. It's not critically important, but the thing is they've been around for around a decade now. And when they first opened their doors, there was a huge rush of people rushing to, a pretty big rush of people rushing to KDP, just trying to make a quick buck, putting out a lot of low quality content, low quality books, etc., etc. Then kind of Amazon decided to take action on them and kind of banned a lot of accounts and still continues to do so. If you're trying to do kind of scammy stuff, fraud or what have you, something along those lines, they really don't like that. These days, to make this business work, what you got to do is you really got to see yourself as somebody who is willing to provide like genuine value. If you look at yourself as an entrepreneur, your product, your book should be like truly of high quality without typos, etc., etc. And also just the opening up of KDP has really changed the self-publishing, the whole publishing industry actually. There's a lot of big success stories from different types of people in self-publishing. And by the way, Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, last year, if I'm not mistaken, 2018, something like that, became the richest, the wealthiest man on the planet, which just, is a good way to reflect on the growth of Amazon. And if you're just getting started, leveraging their huge platform to your advantage can be a fantastic idea. And also, once you learn all of these things that I'm just about to present to you in this course, once you learn this stuff, it's a great business to kind of learn in, and then later apply on other businesses as I have done. Before doing this publishing stuff, just around 5 years ago, I had zero clue of, very little understanding of business. I learned as I did and, eventually succeeded and was able to create good income sources through which have funded other ventures, etc., etc. So, all right, so what is the process? First, what you do is you research and you plan. Now, what does that mean? You look on Amazon, you look closely at the market, you check what is going on, you check at which products people are buying. That's very critical because like a lot of the times people think that they can, with Amazon, they think they will come up with something and then they will kind of, the people will just buy because it's such a genius idea. And now if you have a huge marketing budget and you can perhaps do that, but in this kind of model, the approach is very different. What you're doing is you're catering to existing demand. So you're checking Amazon, you see, okay, there's a lot of demand, for example, in niche XYZ. And then you go ahead and you create for that niche. And if you're doing fiction, the approach will be slightly different. I'll go into it later, but still the same kind of thinking. You use your kind of skills to cater to a genre that has demand, that people are hungry for. And you also, in the step, you do planning. You plan your kind of strategy. This is actually very critical because in this business model, what you're doing is you're capitalizing on the machine that is Amazon. Now, because when Amazon sees that your products are in demand, that there's enough people, that there's a lot of people who like your book, etc., etc., all the metrics, all the numbers are good for it, it will actually push your book out to more people, etc., etc., because when you make money, they make money, and so on and so on. Then the next step, pretty simple, is you create your content. If you're a writer, you go ahead and, I know it's not as simple as I make it out, but you go ahead and you write out your book, however long that takes you. Of course, it is not an easy process, I understand that. But if you are the other type of self-publisher, you work with the writers, you hire them on a freelance basis, or if you're doing something like perhaps activity books, you hire illustrators and so forth. We'll go into all of this in detail. And then once you've created an awesome book that your audience is going to love, what you do is you publish it on Amazon and then you promote it out to the masses. And for these two, for the authors, the strategy, the approach is slightly different than it is for the indie publishers, the Kindle publishers, whatever you like to call them. The Kindle publishers, the big difference between these two is that the people who use this as a business primarily, rather than a way of getting their work out to writing their work and getting and kind of going through that route. So how it's different for the Kindle publishers is that they primarily play within Amazon's system. So they just cater primarily to the demand that's there, and that is how they generate income. Okay, and then the author kind of category, author-writer category, you guys are going to be playing somewhat in Amazon. You're going to be leveraging it to some extent, but a lot of your effort, a lot of your focus is going to be going towards outside of Amazon. So that will be social media, that will be your own branding efforts, your own email list, etc., etc. So you'll have a lot of focus on building your audience. Okay, so I think the process is, at least the overarching process is somewhat clear. We'll go over in more depth in the process and what is what and what are you doing and why and how, etc. in the next slide. So yeah, as I mentioned already, this one I covered. Like there's the two types of self-publishers, and each of them have different types of approaches to the creation process as well as the promotion process. So more in depth into the research. Now, what you're looking for is very simple and straightforward. You're just looking for niches or categories or genres that have high demand. There are plenty of people interested in this niche category or topic, and there is a still relatively low demand, low competition in this market. It's a very kind of basic business axiom, principle. High demand, low competition means great opportunity. It means that with time there will be more competition, but what is important is that it's not oversaturated. Then next up comes the creation process. Now what it looks like is very straightforward. I think you guys, if you've been following along, you already get it and know it. It is, you either hire a ghostwriter or you write your book. And then what follows right after that is you gotta hire a cover designer. If you're really strapped for money, you can do it yourself, but I would highly recommend that you hire a professional that can do a really great job on creating your cover for you. And by the way, later on in this course, we'll go into what constitutes a great cover from the perspective of marketing. And also in the creation process, you could also see getting your book formatted for Kindle, that is ebook format, getting your book formatted for print, that is the physical format, and later on, as you're growing your business, getting your book narrated either by a professional or by yourself. Then the next step is publishing and promoting your book. That's actually, a whole list, a whole range of steps under that. One of them is uploading your manuscript and cover to KDP, along with your description, your 7 metadata keywords, the categories, getting reviews, optimizing your pricing. Then what you do is you use the built-in promo tools, which is the Kindle free days or the Kindle countdown deals. Or you can also, a great thing to do is to use Amazon ads. What is also under publishing and promoting is building your brand. Now, even if you are an indie publisher, it's important to build your mini brand, whether that's under a pen name or under like a company name, that's up to you. Also, a really smart thing to do is once you are expanding your business, you're publishing more cool, high quality, in-demand stuff, is you cross-sell your books. What that means is basically you have multiple books out there and you use, for example, one of them to kind of, after a person would be done with book A, you kind of refer them to book B, or like if it's a series, it's book 1, book 2, so on and so forth. There's a bunch of cool strategies that you can use to make this work for you. And if you're a writer, very important, you build your author platform and also use other kinds of means of advertising and promotion. Your author platform is basically your audience across a whole host of different channels, different social media channels, your email list. It's basically wherever you reach your audience, it's kind of a way to describe your author platform, basically your fans. As a writer, people who are fans of your work. As you put out more work, as you put out more books, these people will be long-term kind of buyers, customers, followers of your work, and so your author platform is a great asset. Right, so I hope the process is now getting more and more clear. Before we jump into the details, I'm kind of working my way from the bird's eye view. We're slowly sinking down into the more detailed stuff, and soon enough we'll start taking action on actually doing things, on researching, etc., etc. But bear with me, because this stuff is important. It's foundational. It will kind of shape how you make your decisions later down the road with all this stuff, with this business. Okay, so Amazon's algorithm. What is it? Why is it important? And how does it impact you? So for these intents and purposes, I see Amazon, and I would like you to see, I suggest that you see Amazon as a huge product search engine. Now, why that matters is because people discover different sorts of products through the search engine, mostly the search engine, somewhat through categories, but the primary one is the search bar. You go to Amazon and you have something that you want, you just type in the keyword real quick, or a couple of different keywords, and you get what you want. And now, as a seller, I'm sure most of you have made purchases on Amazon, and as a seller, that you have to kind of keep in mind, understand what your kind of users are doing, and work backwards from that. Your product, your customer, and then you kind of, there's the process to finding your book, and you kind of gotta look backwards and make the steps backwards. How does it happen? How does the buyer get to your book and actually get to buying? Now, what he does is he or she enters the keyword in the search bar, Then they look at the products. They're still in the decision phase. They look at based on the title and the cover. They click on which seems the most appealing, the most relevant for what they're looking for. And then based on the reviews, very much based on reviews, somewhat based on description perhaps, they make the decision whether this product is worth my money or not. Okay, so keywords, such a huge thing on Amazon. Anything you're doing on Amazon, in our case it's publishing books, is we're thinking really about keywords. So what Amazon's algorithm has to do, Amazon's algorithm has to decide, there are many different products in the market, and so what Amazon's algorithm has to do is it has to decide which products will it show for first, second, third for any search term. Let's say Python for beginners. Python is a programming language if you don't know. Or maybe let's choose an even more simple example. Let's say children's book. Now what Amazon's algorithm has to do is out of all the relevant, the books that are relevant for the term children's book, when you search for children's book, it has to decide which products will it show first. And how does it decide this? Well, first criteria is the keywords. What keywords does the title, subtitle, what I call the metadata keywords, keyword fields, and description hold? What do all of these, what kind of keywords do these areas hold? If the keywords are relevant, if there is perhaps children's book or something very similar in the title, that's already making it kind of think, okay, this might be relevant. Then after that, we have reviews, the rating and the quantity of reviews. If the reviews are high, 4 stars, 5 stars, and there's, a lot of them, at least minimum more than 10, 15, 20, even better, etc. The more the better. And then is the factors like sales rank and conversion rates. This is somewhat more complex. I think, basically it looks at whether the people are staying on your books page or whether they are leaving, and so on and so forth. This is somewhat advanced stuff, I understand, but I still think it's important at least to grasp this stuff to some extent. I have a video on this as well where I go more in depth about how all of this stuff works. But yeah, so if you have a keyword in the title, it has the most possible weight that it can have. That's the place where the keywords are heaviest. So I suggest later in the course, when we get to this part, you'll understand why we put 1 or even 2, in some cases, main keywords in the title field. Okay, so I hope you understand. Now, that is how those are the signals, what they call in the search engine world, the signals that the system uses to understand which books to show to more people. And by extension, when they show your book to people, more people are going to see it and buy it. Very critical stuff. If you didn't get it, feel free to kind of go to, I have a video on this, many other people have videos on this, look into this further, because it's quite important to understand for you guys to have success in this. Now is the more actionable stuff. So to find the niche where you're going to kind of publish your work in, your product in, what is your book going to be about? Or if you are a writer, we'll get into that in a minute. But first off, right, so what you're looking for is high demand. How do you determine what is high demand? What does that mean? How do you decipher? What you gotta look out for is the bestsellers rank. And what is the bestsellers rank? The bestsellers rank is basically the overall ranking of any book on the whole platform. And why this is important is because using this number, we can determine approximately how much sales this book is getting. And be cautious, it's not the rank your book has in any category, because those are different. We can't decipher those. But since we have data, the people who do this self-publishing, they have the data in their account, and they can see the best-selling rankings on Amazon, and they can kind of see they have correlation, right? And the best-selling rank is constituted of the number of books that a book sells in any given period of time. In other words, it's the sales velocity. It's not like there's a lot of myths going out there, and don't get confused. The ranking is purely based on sales, on book sales. That is why it's so valuable for us. And now, what kind of numbers indicate good sales? As you see here, good sales is anything that's, and that's loosely, I loosely say that, anything that's below 30,000. That means it might be getting, it's slightly hard for me to say off the top of my head, but it might be getting some 5 to 10, something like in that range, I would say. 5 to 10, maybe perhaps more around December or Christmas time, sales. And everything that's below is even more. If there's a book around 1,000 best-selling rank, with a 1,000 best-selling rank, it's doing very well, selling a lot of copies. That might be, honestly, it's hard to say. In the hundreds for sure, and 20,000 also good. In the teens is already like, it's moving a good number of copies each day and generating a couple of $100 in sales. If not, in the lower thousands, the book might even generate more than 1,000 per month. And the second criteria that I mentioned already before is low competition. Low competition means that there's not like tens of books with really great reviews. That's already indicating that the market is saturated, and the opportunity is kind of, it might be very challenging to rank in those niches. All right, time for the fun stuff. Let's dive in Amazon, in the what we see as the self-publishers or the entrepreneurs that do business on Amazon. We see this as the marketplace. So you don't look at it as your shop. You see it as a place where you can analyze the market, where you can see what people are buying, etc., etc. And so where a good place to start is when you're doing your research, your niche research, your market research, is you will go to Amazon best sellers. All right, and so what you're going to do is you're going to just type in Amazon bestseller books in Google, or you can go straight through Amazon. And here we are. We're already on the books category, right? How this looks like is you'll be browsing for trends here. You'll be looking at the best-selling charts. These are all the books that are selling the most units and therefore making the most money. And you'll check out all sorts of different categories. You'll check activity books. Let's see, cookbooks. What's happening in the cookbook genre? Baking. You see, I already see that ketogenic diet is very popular. Keto diet you have here, simply keto, keto diet, instant pot cookbook. Okay, that's interesting. Ketogenic diet. Okay, I think you guys are noticing a trend as well, right? All right, so obviously there's a trend here going on. We see quite a few books. I don't know how many, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the first page of the cookbooks category. We see a lot of keto diet, ketogenic diet. Oh, here's another one. The trend is clear, so let me look further into that. All right, here we open one of the best-selling books. We see it's 23 in all of books. All right, cool. Let me check that out even further. Ketogenic diet. All right, let me check them out. Check out the first couple of... Now, bear in mind, guys, that I'm doing this as an example. Now, in reality, if you have watched other courses or what have you, you would already know that this is a highly saturated kind of genre. I probably wouldn't touch this one, but for the sake of understanding and going through the process, going through the motions, let me explain to you the what's and the hows. Okay, so this is 440 in Amazon Books. And also what I noticed right here is it's independently published. What that means is it has been published by a self-publisher. That's important because somewhat important. That indicates to us that that this guy or gal is just like us. And so they haven't had, that means that highly likely they don't have a huge marketing budget that they're funneling into their book. Whereas, let's see, so this lady, Susan Ryan, she does have a publishing company that has published her company. And by the looks of it, it looks like she has, the company is putting money behind her book, has more money to put behind her book. So this ranking, number 64, you got to take it with a grain of salt. That doesn't necessarily mean that you will be able to have similar results. And this book, number 3, also independently published in 6,200 around in ranking in the book category. That's pretty good. That book is doing well. This person is making good money. Let's see what else they have. The ketogenic diet. This niche is full of books that are very similar to each other. All right, now that we've kind of dug around, looked at some of the books, kind of checked what is going on, we see that, well, the keto diet books are selling quite well. It might make sense for you to... This actually is one of those situations where it's somewhat borderline. I wouldn't touch it, just because it's for my what I'm doing, how I approach this. It's way too saturated for me. You see, this book has 1,000 reviews. It means it's a very established product. It will hold its position right here. This one already as well has 120. These have a bit less, actually. These have 22, 27. This one has 500. Overall, honestly, it's the ship has sailed. There's way too many products going for the same keywords, and you'll have a bit of a tough time getting noticed. Also, one thing you got to keep in mind is there something of value that you can add to this this niche? Meaning, is there something different that you can do? Is there some kind of subgenre that you can do within keto? Let's see, what is this? Keto quick start. Keto living day by day. Keto diet. All right, let's go on back to the book categories. And as well, guys, remember, you're not looking at these numbers to tell you what the sales numbers are. What you're looking at is this one right here. This book is 440. It means it sells... I'm somewhat hesitant to put the label just because I don't want to lie. It's something like, it's probably over 1,000 units per month, or definitely the high hundreds with 440. Based on my experience, it's the high hundreds, if not exceeding 1,000. Also, another question is consistency. Is this book, is it getting a heavy promotional push? Or does it day by day stay the same? All right, let's go back to the best-selling books and check what's going on here. All right, now here we see, let's repeat the process again. We see, what do we see? We see good days that start with gratitude. I see that's a journal that's doing very well, sitting number 1 in a pretty big category. We have this is a cool one, a swear word coloring book. We have origami. So yeah, let's check a bunch of these. Let's check the journals. Let's check the swear word coloring book. Let's check the origami. All right, so easy origami. Dover Publications, that's a pretty big publisher. So you gotta kind of be wary. Like, you never know whether they have big marketing budgets. Okay, 600, that's good. Let me check origami. Okay, let's check some of these out. Now, an interesting thing is that this niche is actually selling, some of these books are selling at a higher price point, which is also kind of a good indicator. It means that people are willing to kind of pay a bit more for these types of books. Now, this looks interesting. This book had 14,000 bestsellers rank. Let's see how much this one has. This is intriguing. This looks like there might be some opportunity here. This one is 20. Not that high, but also not that surprising, because let's check the price. It costs $12.88, discounted from $24. That means this person is not generating that much sales, but he or she is making up for it because they have a higher royalty rate. All right, moving on. Let's check more of these. Yeah, this one is also doing well. Let's take a look. Total Publishing. We have Pokemon. We have, okay, this one looks, let's see what's going on here. Also by Total Publishing, 2000. Hey guys, this is Thomas coming at you real quick from the future. I just realized I missed out one kind of key part to helping you understand how the research process kind of happens. What you would do once you're kind of combing the market, you're checking the market, what is a really good idea to do, however your style is, what I offer you to do is what I suggest that you do is something like this. You open up a Google sheet, an Excel sheet, whatever that might be, and you just jot down all of the niches, all of the categories, all of the keywords that seem interesting for you. Here you see, as an example, I wrote down ketogenic diet, the average kind of best-selling rank. You can calculate that based on all of the books on page 1. Then you can write either a comment or some kind of number that kind of regards the overall competition, either how many search results Amazon gives you or what have you. And then you have the average rankings. Now, and then as you search, you're going to keep adding interesting kind of niches. We checked out origami. Let's see, this one has lower average ranking. For example, I'm making these numbers up for the sake of example here for us. And then we have average, sorry, this is actually supposed to be average ratings and reviews. Just doing this kind of on the fly. Let's say average rating is 4 and 12, let's say 12 reviews, for example. And if that's the case, that indicates that kind of there's not that many average reviews. That means there's not that many established books out there already, and that we can perhaps compete. Let's say I would write perhaps good average ranking could potentially compete on reviews, like basically get better reviews and rank in that way. And so what you do, you just keep the research process going, come up with probably more than, Ideally more than 10 results, somewhere in the teens if you can, even up to 20. Then you have a good chunk of kind of ideas to pursue and to choose out of. You can kind of see that, okay, this one is very saturated. Perhaps I don't really want to go there. It might take too much effort and a risk to get seen and noticed there. Or perhaps another one might be like, it doesn't have the highest average BSRs, but it has super, super low competition. So this looks like a no-brainer opportunity. And that's how you would kind of continue the process. And that's only once you have a chunk of data, then you're going to make your decision based on that. Okay, guys, I hope that gave you a good insight into what is going on when you look at Amazon. When as a self-publisher, you're looking at the market and you're analyzing. You're looking at the bestsellers ranks and the theme, the topic of the book. Now, what you would do is you would keep that process going. You would jot down in an Excel sheet or anywhere on a notebook, whatever works for you. You would jot down niches that seem interesting for you, and you would just keep looking and searching until you find something that really you see how you can add value. There's something either new a slightly different angle on the topic that you can kind of fulfill, or there is you can just improve the quality. Maybe the average review rating is 3.5 or 4, and you can make something that's that the people love. Maybe something's missing. Now this process could go on for like a really long time, and just because I don't want this course to be like 10 hours, I'm going to cut it there, but I hope you understand what is going on. If you have any questions about this, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll do my best to answer it and to shed clarity for you. Now, if you are an author, what you will be doing, or perhaps if you're just publishing fiction, what you'll be doing is you will be looking for the genre, the subgenre that your book will be in. Now, an important thing to note is that fiction buyers, they use a genre to find books. They don't use necessarily because a fiction book it's a creative work. You're not gonna, rarely, unless you do some big marketing campaigns, rarely who is going to search by your book based on its creative title, whatever that might be. So here I've presented to you a method that is really cool. It was in an article by Kathy Yardley. What you should do is you should get familiar with the several kind of genre options that there are, and then you probably have done some work, some kind of genre or an area that you gravitate to as a fiction writer, and you would pick out certain elements of your work, and through that you would kind of identify your most likely reader persona. Who is the person, the avatar, whatever, that is most likely to be really into your book, where you really want to buy your book and love it. And then what you're going to do is use similar titles, comparative titles, as Kathy says it in her article that I've linked to down here below in the presentation. You can see you will use similar titles to zero in on your subgenre. So you'll check the store similarly like we just did. You'll check it out, and you will look for these similar titles that would be similar to your book, and that's how you will find the genre that they are in. You will choose as your genre. That will be your kind of, as a fiction writer, it will be your marketing asset, your marketing data, your marketing asset. So once you have found your genre, your niche, your whatever word you want to use here, you found your topic, you know it's in demand, you're confident that you can add value, what you'll do is you will come up with the title of your book. You can first come up with a table of contents, whatever works for you. But first, for the sake of this course, we'll be first focusing on the title. Now, the title has to cover these points. It has to be descriptive of your book. It has to describe what your book is about. You cannot mislead people. Like, if your book says one thing and then it delivers another, you're likely to have bad reviews. People get upset relatively easily. It depends on which kind of niche you're going at. Then it has to be simple and understandable, at least to your target audience. You don't try to overcomplicate things. Don't try to cram too much information in one place. Also, what you might think about is, depending again on your niche, if you're doing nonfiction, fiction as well, what can be good is to make it catchy, make it sound cool, make it memorable, and make it something that also, you don't have to cover all of these points, but the big ones definitely. Attention drawing can be good, can play to your advantage. And last, but definitely not least, is make sure that your title includes one or two of your main keywords. And remember when I talked about the Amazon algorithm and so on and so forth, that is because the Amazon algorithm sees anything that is in the title as like holding a lot of importance in its eyes. If you think of it as a human, it sees it as any information that's there is important, then it's relevant for people who are searching for your terms, even for fiction writers. So, and how does this look like in reality? Example number 1. I don't think you can quite see it, so I'll make it smaller for you guys. Example number 1 is, as we look at cookbooks, here I picked one. These are real examples from Amazon. Air fryer cookbook, 250 tasty keto recipes for air fryer. So that's actually a combination of, this is kind of a side note, it's a combination of keto and air fryer, which is kind of actually two different topics. Interesting approach. But yeah, the title is, it's very basic. There's nothing too fancy about it, but it does serve its purpose. It says it is very descriptive of the book. It has a benefit, 250 tasty. Tasty is a good word to use. You could also use delicious, decadent, anything to kind of make it appealing. Then it has keto recipes for air fryer. So what we can see here is actually, let me highlight this one as well. Let me underline it, whatever. I can't find it at the moment. So what we see here is that it holds actually 3 keywords: air fryer cookbook, keto recipes, and then air fryer again right here. So this one is quite, should do its job, and I'm sure it does for this book. Then let's continue. Then this second one is fiction. Hell Hath No Fury, a Montag and Strong detective novel. Here it kind of also has the detective novel as the kind of main keyword. It's not going to draw gets huge sales just from that keyword, but it still will serve its purpose. And it also, detective novel, kind of will describe, kind of help to zero in on the specific genre that it is. And also we got Montague, perhaps is the right pronunciation, not sure. Montague and Strong Case. So that's kind of, it repeats it twice and makes it somewhat of a branding thing. So if the fans of this book will input it in the search bar, then people are going to obviously find this specific person's book. And then we have another one from the activity book side. I kind of tried to be somewhat diverse and pick, we got 2 fiction books here, different fiction books, different from one another, and then we got fiction title. This non-fiction title, this activity book title, is somewhat similar to the last one in the sense that it just describes what it is, and it kind of draws the reader, the potential customer in with benefits like 100 different pages, blah, 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 jumbo activity book. Jumbo meaning it's large and it has a lot of pages, so there's a lot of value there for the customer. And then if we look at the keywords, we see activity book for kids. We see coloring pages is a keyword. Math coloring, dot to dot will be people will be searching for dot to dot activity books. Perhaps mazes as well. So there's a lot of different keywords hidden in here, and it's done. Important to note, it's not really done. There's quite a few of them, but it's not done in a way that's like stuffing it. When you stuff, if you decide to stuff your title with a bunch of different keywords, like to the max, to the limit, then you risk getting what is known as the Amazon slap. What it is basically Amazon telling you this, we're not going to accept this. This is misleading to our customers. Please come up with another title. So that's kind of risky territory. Then once you have your title, or before you have the title, the sequence is not that critical. You create the content. This is very important. Now, one of the first steps is going to be coming up with a great table of contents. And how you do that is you check what's out there already. You check their table of contents. You check what they have and perhaps what they're missing. Perhaps you check a bunch of different ones and you kind of synthesize it and you make something that's better. That's what you're aiming for essentially here. You're aiming to come up with something that improves what's already out there. Then you may check reviews of other books. It will give you a feeling of what people like, what's like important for them in that specific kind of niche or genre. And then what you're also going to do is check negative reviews. That's also important. That kind of shows you what is missing in the other books. You'll check out what is, what's not there, what they have missed out on, what people think is important. Actually, why don't I do that real quick with you guys here. Back to that ketogenic example that we were doing. Oh, wait, why don't we check out this, whatever comes our way, this origami thing. Now, obviously, this book has really good reviews, but just for the sake of example, why don't we check out the bad reviews? Puzzled but determined. So this is the best, most highly rated critical review. What do we see here? So person says that he or she had trouble with in this origami book with overlap and jumble and confusion. Then going forward, let's check out more. Very poor instructions. Cover was torn off. This stuff will happen from time to time, and unfortunately, there's not too much you can do about it. This person is upset about the cover. Not easy. Simple. So obviously you see people want it to be more, less confusing, more simple and clear. So that's something that you could improve there if you were deciding to go into that kind of niche. Then what you can also do is you can check some relevant forums if there are any, and check Reddit. It's a good thing to do to kind of get acquainted with closer acquainted with the niche and the genre. Because at the end of the day, like this is so important. Don't try to cut corners and and save every penny as much as you can. Like if you will have crappy content, you will get crappy reviews, which will lead to lack of sales, like death of your book, and that's not something that you want. So invest the time and energy into. After you've chosen a really good niche, invest the time and energy in creating some really cool content that your audience is going to love and leave you great reviews, and that will perpetuate your business and the sales of your book. Now, how do you create the content? As I mentioned before, there are two main options here. You can hire a ghostwriter or an illustrator on Upwork.com. Or you can also write the book yourself if you're an author, obviously. Now, if you fall into category number one, there is, as I mentioned in the beginning of this course, there is the accompanying template. This is what it looks like. You can go ahead and download it if you haven't already done that. Then next in the process is creating your cover. Now, to create your cover, what you'll need to do is you will need to find a designer. As I mentioned before, you can do it yourself. I would suggest if you're really strapped for money, you have really, really low budget, you can come up with something on Canva. There's a free tool called Canva, paid in some cases, doesn't cost a lot of money. That's something you can use. For the sake of creating your cover, I suggest that you use either Upwork.com or Fiverr. And you find a designer that is good at what they do and that will create great value in terms of visually representing your book. Hey guys, a quick couple extra words on Upwork and Fiverr. Now, Upwork is kind of the biggest freelancing platform out there at the moment. Fiverr is also a kind of a gig-based platform. I'll talk about that in a minute. Now, on Upwork, what you're going to do is you're going to register, and then what you will do is you will post your job on this platform. And what's going to happen, a lot of people are going to apply to this job post that you've posted, and then your job will be to select which person is right for you and your gig. So hire based on things like price, of course. You're probably interested in being within your budget. Hire based on the person's previous kind of track record. Look at their reviews, what the other people say about them. Look at how they communicate, etc., etc. You can have a call with them if you want. You kind of feeling them out and seeing how they're going to be when you work with them, and hopefully when you hire a cool person, either cover designer or ghostwriter or what have you. If you hire the right person, you can work with them again and again. And so on and so forth. With Fiverr works slightly differently. Where the people come to you in the Upwork freelancing model, when you find people to do your work for you. Here you go to the gig, what they call gigs, the work providers. You go to them. So, for example, for cover design, you would just type it in and see what Fiverr.com gives you. Originally, it was just $5 per gig, but now they've increased it, and it depends on who you pick, but a lot of the time it actually ends up costing similar to what Upwork costs. And Upwork is in my eyes, it's a little bit more advanced and kind of somewhat more kind of professional. It's like, this is more like you have to communicate less, you have to explain less. It's more like, perhaps you could say more efficient in that way. But my preference is Upwork, who I can be more like, I like to be very like hands-on on the things, whatever it is that we do. That's my preference. But you could be able to find like really good, cost-effective, meaning cheap, cover design while still getting good quality. So yeah, just swim around here and pick out whatever looks the best to you, which one of them looks the best based on reviews. Again, reviews based on their portfolio. Now, what is a good cover? Now, a good cover is something that is well designed, something that is representative of your book, something that is attention drawing and legible, meaning you can at least to some extent read your one of the key main words of your book. Now, all right, well designed, very straightforward. Well designed means that it's high quality. That it doesn't look like it was made by a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old in Microsoft Paint, but it was done professionally. It should be also representative of your book. It should represent what your book is about. It should give the potential customer a feeling of what your book is about. It should ideally be somewhat attention drawing, either via the use of colors or in some other way. And legibility is also good, like that you have, for example, if you were doing origami, it would have origami, like that book cover actually had. It's a good one. It has that keyword large, that you can even see it when it's small. And that's also an important point, that you remember that your customers and your potential customers who are still browsing and trying to decide, make their purchasing decision, they see your book in a small size. So you got to remember that the people will see it that way, and you make it look good even when it's that small. Even when it's small, it It covers all of these points. It has legibility, and so on and so forth. Yeah, right. So we have this repeating here. And again, there is a template for hiring a cover designer. And as I mentioned, the sites that you can use is Upwork, Upwork.com. Besides Upwork, there's also freelancer.com, but honestly, I don't like it. And I wouldn't recommend that you use it. And then there is also Fiverr.com. Now, after that comes formatting for Kindle and formatting for print. Now, for the sake of brevity, for the sake of not going into super length, this perhaps is not relevant for all of you. It's not the most complex thing to do. But what you will do when you have your manuscript, when you're either, if you're an author, you've written your book, you've proofread it, you've edited it. That's actually also a very critical point, guys, is that your content is proofread. Either ask the person who creates it to do it, or you can also get an editor. The point being that it's really important that your book is without typos, without mistakes, and that it's also formatted, as we see here, correctly, formatted well. Now, you can use, as we'll see in part 2 of the course, you can just upload your Microsoft Word document, so that's .docx file, to KDP, and it will convert it to e-reader file. It will convert it to however it needs to look, which is basically .mobi file with Kindle file. Honestly, you don't need to bother with that. Basically, you can just have your Microsoft Word file and upload it to Kindle. Or the alternative is to use Kindle Create. Now, there are a couple of things. If you just go straight direct route with Microsoft Word, then there are some things you got to keep in mind. Basically, the main concept is that a page on your Amazon Word document does not equal a page on your reader's Kindle device. The Kindle devices are different, they have different screens, so you got to keep that in mind. Let me, real quick, why don't I open Microsoft Word and run you guys through some of the main concepts that you got to understand. Actually, why don't I open, an actual manuscript and an actual book. This is actually formatted for print. This was a book that we did quite a long time ago. Right, so let's say we were focusing to going to make this as a Kindle book. What we would do is we would use this view non-printing characters, and that gives you kind of an idea of what your manuscript looks like in terms of the code that's there. So these are characters that break, for example, break lines. Then you have page breaks. Basically, what I'm getting at here is that all of these characters that are in your document will be put into your Kindle device, into your reader's Kindle device, and that means you shouldn't if you want to put your start some text in a new page. You're not going to just hit the enter button. You're going to use a page break, because the page break will translate to your Kindle device, etc., etc. I actually have a video about this on my channel. So I recommend that you check that out for this stuff. Now, also the size won't translate. There's a lot of things that won't translate. You can check this stuff out on KDP's website. But all of this said and done, I recommend that you use Kindle Create. Also, for which I have a tutorial on our channel. Kindle Create is basically a software that's made by Amazon, made by KDP, especially for their self-publishers. It allows you to basically check, let me open it up real quick. It allows you to check what your book is going to look like on Kindle devices. It's really cool in the sense that it's made especially for Kindle. So you're less likely to have all of these translation bugs. So once you'll be done with your Kindle formatting, you will just, on Kindle Create, you would just hit the export button. It's not too complex. As I said, I have a video on it. You can go check it out. I won't go too deep into that now. Then you will format your book for print. Now, there are two options again. You can either hire somebody on you can hire somebody on Upwork to do it for you. They would probably use a program like Adobe Illustrator. They would do it professionally. You can like tweak things. Hey, I want my book to be like this. I want it to be like that. Or you can use, if you want to go the budget-friendly route, we can put it that way, you can use Microsoft Word. Again, I have a video on this. I won't go too much in depth on it. You would basically, you would just basically make the Microsoft Word pages the format that you want them to be, the size that you want them to be, the size that your book is going to be, and then you would kind of go from there. You would create your table of contents, play around with the fonts, with the sizes, the spacing, all that creative stuff that I think a lot of you would enjoy doing. And yeah, after that, you will just save it as PDF and use it for uploading to KDP Print. Also important to note is that Amazon has already a system for you to be able to publish paperback books at no initial cost to you. How that model works is they get an initial fee from you, from the sales of your book. So you kind of share the, not quite, the cost comes out of the sale price, and Amazon's share comes out of the price of your book as well. So you don't have to have any upfront costs, which is really cool about this model, what we're doing here. It's great for beginners. And yeah, we'll get into that more later in part 2. But yeah, that's also important to know that they operate with a print-on-demand model. Basically, when somebody buys a book, it gets printed specifically for them. And there's no excess inventory that you gotta pay for, etc., etc. It's very cost efficient. Okay, and that will be everything for part 1. What we'll be doing in part 2, guys, is we will be going into the uploading process, the publishing and promotion process. So that means we'll look at how to select the keywords, the 7 keywords that KDP allows you to choose for your book. We'll look at crafting a cool, benefit-driven description that will help to increase and drive your sales. We'll look at selecting the categories. We'll look at how to create a cover that sells your book. We'll look at optimizing your book pricing. We'll look at how to get review strategies to get reviews. And we'll also look at all of the promotional strategies. There's quite a few, and different strategies work for different people. All right, guys, I shall see you in part number 2.